everyone, welcome to this video. Today I'm going to share how I added backing to the hoops that I embroider and bead. It's really easy. I've been doing this pretty much for as long as I've been embroidering hoops, and I can show you an example. Here's the front of my hoop and then the back. So this is inspired, I think I probably got the idea from sewing in linings in clothing. It's a bit more crude, but it does the job of covering up the back and keeping the fabric from being transparent in any way. With lighter colored fabrics, I like to choose lighter colored backgrounds. And even though I'll be demonstrating on some small hoops, it's the same method no matter what size you do. So even with large hoops, I do the same exact thing that I'll share. I'm just doing small hoops because I have some pieces that I've been working on that I need to add a backing to anyways. So we'll get started with this one. Okay, I have my embroidery set in this little hoop, but I want to finish up the back. So the first thing I'm gonna do, I have an embroidery needle and I have some random scraps of embroidery thread. These are 3-strand. I also like to use the full 6 strands of embroidery too. So this piece looks fine. It's actually a bit longer than I need. So I'm going to thread my needle, tie a knot at the end, and now I'm gonna gather this up. I can show you an example of one I've already gathered. You just do long stitches all the way around the hoop. And then when you get to the end, tie a knot. Okay, and then I'll cut this off. So that's the first step. Now I want to add a piece of fabric behind here, and I like to keep a pile of scrap fabrics next to my station. Because this is a darker fabric, I'll probably choose something dark to go behind it. So I have some scrap fabric of the linen that I used for this hoop. I'm just going to place this here and I'm basically cutting out a circle about the size of the hoop, maybe a little bit larger. And obviously it doesn't have to be perfect. You can see mine is pretty misshapen. That looks good. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is fold down the top and pin it up here. So that closes off the raw edges. I'll do the same thing down here. Pin it. I do all 4 sides. And then once I have all 4 sides pinned, I do the corners. I tuck them under so that it's a bit of a rounded line, and then I pin it. And I'll do that on these ones too, same way. And I don't worry too much about this being perfect. It's the back of the hoop. It's really just meant to hide any of the raw edges of the fabric and the back of the threads to kind of secure the hoop. Here's how it looks fully pinned. With larger sizes of hoops, you might need to add a little bit more pins between these guys, but because this is small, this is plenty. So I'll take some of my random thread scraps and thread my needle again. Knot it. And now I'm going to stitch this closed. I like to hide the knot inside. This thread is just about long enough. Sometimes I have to tie off the thread and then cut a new piece halfway as I'm stitching around, but this just about makes it. Now I'm going to knot this little end. And I like to add my initials, so I'm going to do that. That's something I started doing over the years. And if it's a really fancy piece, I will write my name out or do Tessa P with the date that I finished it. But for the little hoops, I tend to just do a TP. So that is the basic way I back my hoops. So some people, when they do embroidery hoops, they leave it like this and then put a nail in the wall and just stick the hoop on the nail. But some of you may know my thing that I've been doing is I add a chain on the hoop, and that's where I hang it from. Honestly, not sure where I got the idea to do that. That's also just something I started doing when I began embroidering. That's just something I would do. I get these screws, they're key screws from hardware stores, either local hardware stores or like Lowe's. Here they are. It looks like they're a 1/4 inch. The little keyhole opening is a 1/4 inch. The top part, that's a 1/4 inch. The whole length of it is 3/4 of an inch, but basically I just get the smallest size of these. I mean, it'd be good to measure this, but sometimes I just eyeball it where I'm screwing these into the top. And then I add a chain with jewelry pliers. I get the chain from craft stores like Joann's or Michael's. Yeah, I try to use a coupon because this stuff is weirdly expensive. Also, just my preference is to get the thinnest kind, and I do silver because it matches the keyholes. And then I also have little connectors. These are from Joann's. They're like a pack that comes in 3 sizes, so that can be useful. Anyways, I'll show you how I attach all of that stuff as well. This hoop that I have, it's from a shop on Etsy called Art Cove Crafts. Usually I will thrift my hoops, like I order bulk embroidery hoop lots off of eBay where people are reselling stuff, and the quality of the hoop from 5 to 10 years ago is a lot softer wood. So I do prefer the older hoops. This newer hoop, it's so much harder for me to get these screws in. So sometimes I have to have Lewis help me drill holes in it before I add the keyholes. The hoop just won't take the little tiny screw. But right now, these are really sharp, so it's not that bad. Okay, there's a little hoop with the keyholes, and now I just eyeball measure the chain, kind of look at what looks good. Something like that looks fine to me. I have a pair of wire cutters. These are just your classic jewelry making tools. This is probably from Joann's. And then I've got a couple of these. Also jewelry making section of the craft store. So yeah, you have to open it, put one end of the chain in, and then the other end over here, and then close it back up so that it's secure. All right. Sometimes if there's a gap like this, kind of have to zhuzh it shut. It's a little bit finicky. That looks good enough. Okay, there you go. Thank you for watching this tutorial on how I finish my embroidery hoops. I hope it was helpful and maybe you can use it in your work. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.